In today's video, we are going to talk about recommendation letters for the EB-2 NIW application. The first thing to mention is that these letters are not a requirement formally by USCIS. You do not need to have them, it's not a must, but they will help a lot in many different ways. They can help you prove your exceptional abilities. For example, if you don't have an advanced degree, you must prove your exceptional abilities in the field. So that's one way you can do it through letters. They can help you establish that. They can help you establish that the endeavor is of national importance, that you have experience in the field. That means that you're well positioned and that it would be beneficial for the US to waive the job offer. And I have some more examples of different aspects that the letters can help you with. For example, talk about your publication record and how it compares to others in the field. That's something that your advisor can do, for example, in a letter. The importance of your contributions in general, but of course, there are more specific cases. For example, in my case, I'm a scientist, but I worked in the private sector, so you don't get to publish as if you were in academia, for example. So you can use these letters to have someone in your company talk about what are your contributions that are not public, so you cannot use a peer review publication to show that. Other things, for example, statements where they support someone supports you should not have a labor certification, so you really need a national interest waiver, the number of years of experience, and that's really important. For example, if you do not have an advanced degree, then you must prove a number of years of experience, and you can do it with these letters from employers. How exceptional you are, so different people can talk about that. Evidence of progress in your career. So if you don't have a master's or PhD, you need to show that experience. You have to have progressive experience. So you can have someone talk about how you progressed in your career, taking on more and more responsibilities and get promotions throughout the years. Evidence that you commanded a higher salary than others in your field. You can have someone speak to that. National importance of the endeavor and how you're well positioned to fulfill that endeavor. And again, more about experience, evidence that you have those 10 years of full-time experience that you need in case you don't have a master's or PhD. This is particularly one of the three types of evidence to provide to USCIS for this exceptional ability category. A question that is asked a lot is how many letters do you need? There's no number because this is not an actual requirement. But even though there's no official number, I would say that between 4 and 8 letters is a good number to consider. If you have too few letters, it may suggest that you don't have the evidence that you need. So the USCIS officer may be a little bit surprised by the fact that you're not showing a few letters. If you have too many, it can be counterproductive because it can dilute all the evidence that you're presenting, and you may distract the USCIS officer with all those letters. There are two types of recommenders. One that we call objective recommenders, or also called independent advisory opinions. These are experts in the field that don't know you personally, but through your work. So they know you because you have published, they know you because your influence in the field is such that they heard about you that way. This is the most important type of recommender for this type of applications for EB-2 NIW or EB-1, EB-1A, EB-1B. So you have to really consider this. Typically, when we look for jobs, for example, and we are providing recommenders to talk about us, we actually provide the second type of recommenders, subjective recommenders. Those are people that know us personally, that we have worked with them. For example, our former bosses or former advisors, they know us personally, they know us professionally. In this case, even though you can have a few of these, they are not the most important. USCIS gives much more importance to those that don't know you personally, but through your work. They may consider that it is easier to get a subjective recommender to sign a letter than someone that you haven't worked with. Independent recommenders, leaders in other companies in your field, or professors in your field that you didn't work with. So don't think about your advisor in this case. Think about someone in the same university, in the same department, but you haven't worked with them, or even better, that would be actually um, a gray area. I would say try not to go for the same university, but a different university, someone that you may know about, understands your field. Authors that cited your work. Look, if you are a scientist or a researcher, look at your citation record and see who cited you and what type of citations. There are stronger and weaker citations, so try to see if someone that does really know your work and has talked about it in their own publications is a great candidate. Professionals you met in conferences or networking events, and connections of connections in general. So, for example, in my case, I leverage the connections from my own advisor and also people that I have met in professional conferences. And remember, the more reputable the recommender is, the stronger your application will be as well. How to use these independent recommendations? Well, you will establish with them that you are important in the field, that you're impactful in the field. In other words, you are well positioned to actually be successful in your endeavor. You will use these letters to highlight specific details of your career. With these letters, what you will do is you will take small statements from the letters, those that you consider more important, and you will cite them literally in your cover letter. You want to demonstrate you are exceptional. That's part of the deal here. So, because these independent recommenders don't know you personally, they are not attached to you in any way. They don't owe you anything. They really don't know you. They know your work and your achievements, and that gives UCIS evidence that you actually have accomplished more than the average person in the field, because not everyone would sign that type of very strongly worded letter. How can you find and approach these independent recommenders? Well, if they are completely unknown to you or unrelated to you, then find information from their website, the contact information from the organization website, or use LinkedIn messaging and explain to them the situation. Give them a good picture of what you're trying to accomplish here. You're applying for this type of green card. You need a very strong recommendation letter. This is kind of hard, as you can imagine, because just imagine if you were in the situation and you didn't know anything about EB-2 NIW green cards, and someone approached you asking for a recommendation, someone that you don't know at all, and they are asking you to actually sign a very strong letter of support. Another type of person that you can target is connections of connections. So, for example, someone you have met through your advisor, this is what I use in my case. Send them a message, refresh their memory about how they know you, and of course explain everything about the green card and why this is important, that this is a very strong letter that is required, and I think this is a higher success rate than the previous case. Examples of subjective recommenders are graduate advisors, another professor from your department that you have worked with, current or former manager at your company, executive from your current or previous job, current or former colleagues, or HR person as well. If you get your advisor as recommender, this is a good subjective recommender. They can give specific details about your achievements in grad school, for example, how you were involved in leadership activities. Think about things that are hard to document otherwise, and this is one of them. If your degree is related to the endeavor, that hopefully that's the case, then the advisor can help establish why it is of substantial merit and why it's of national importance to the US. And can also help document that you are well positioned. That's one of the prongs for the NIW. If you publish research, this professor can also highlight how your publication record compared to other students. Here we're talking, of course, if yours is better than the average. That's something that you can actually quote in your cover letter, saying, for example, well, Oscar publish 7 papers during the PhD, and that's better than the average 3 to 4 papers that my other students have published. So that's a great statement. Letters from employers, they can also help supporting claims that are hard to prove otherwise. For example, an example I talked about earlier, lack of publications during your time in a private company. Typically, because of IP issues, you cannot publish as freely as in academia. So they can talk about that, they can talk about your contributions and provide that piece of evidence that you would be missing. They can also literally claim that a labor certification does not articulate your skills and expertise, and it would impact the organization negatively if they were to lose you. And this is an example of quote that I had in one of my letters. This is a letter from an executive in my company. I fully expect Dr. Blah 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 to continue playing a critical role in whatever company, and you can say for a long time, for the coming years. That gives USCIS the impression, the reality that this company is really interested in you, and they would be in trouble if they didn't have someone like you. Another common question is, can the recommenders be from abroad, or do they have to be in the United States? And of course, recommenders can be from abroad. Actually, that could even help you establish that you are impactful not only in the US but abroad. However, if you get someone to write a letter from a different country, make sure that the letters are either in English or they are translated if they are in another language. In my case, 2 out of 6 letters were international. Specifically, they were from Brazil. They were written in English, so I didn't need any translation. Who writes the letters? So in this section, we'll talk about how to write the letters, but who writes the letters? I mean, typically, you as the petitioner will draft them if you are self-petitioning. Of course, if you're using a lawyer, hopefully they will help drafting. Although I have experience with lawyers and they didn't do that for me. But let's assume that you're self-petitioning, which is what this channel is about. And what you will do, you will present a draft to them, and then they can review them, they can edit if they want, and then finally they sign and scan it for you to use. Always provide a draft. Even when you approach them at the beginning, asking for their help, already say to them, I'm going to give you a draft, so your work will be minimized. You will not have to spend hours. I mean, we all know how long it takes to write letters. The burden should be on you, not on them. They are already giving you a lot of their time and their effort. So provide a draft, and this also helps you strategize better. At the beginning of the process, you should look at your case and look at the evidence you already have, the evidence that you want to get through the letters, and it will help you distribute the different pieces of evidence or the needs that you have from the different letters among all the recommenders that you are going to obtain. So the structure of the letters, before getting into the content, I should note that it is much better if you can get official letterheads. Already say that when you ask them for help, say that you would like to have the official letterhead of their organization. Sometimes it's not possible. There are companies or organizations that don't allow for this. But if you can, this is going to look much better for the USCIS officer when they review. Always have a date. USCIS don't want very old letters. I would say a few months is what you can accept. Address to the USCIS, to the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and start a letter with "Dear Sir, Madam, dear USCIS officer," or a more generic to whom it may concern. That's a good starting for the letter. And then always, before you do that, have a subject line that can be something like "Independent letter of recommendation for Dr. blah blah blah," or just Dr. blah blah or Mr. blah blah blah. The first paragraph is basically used to say the purpose of this letter is to support the application for a green card of this person. And you can say what type of green card it is, provide more details. Sometimes there is a strong statement there about how significant the work of this person is. That's kind of optional. And then we can also include, and I think this is important, how the recommender knows the applicant, especially if it's an independent recommender or an objective recommender. We need to clearly state, I do not know this person personally, but I know him or her because of this and that. It can be because I'm aware of their publications in peer-reviewed journals, or I heard him giving a talk in such and such conference. Whatever it is really good to state that clearly. If it's a subjective review, then it will say, for example, I was Oscar's advisor, or I was his supervisor in X company, etc. The second paragraph gives an overview on the recommender's background. Remember that you will have to attach a CV or resume in your package. So there will be a full piece of information there about the background of this recommender. But in this paragraph, we want to highlight the key aspects so the USCIS officer can clearly see how this person is well positioned to give such a recommendation. In the central paragraphs, we will have the recommender highlight the qualifications of the applicants, your qualifications. This is really the most important part of the letter. It's about 2 to 4 paragraphs, can be a little bit longer, where we previously identify what we want this letter to really provide in terms of evidence, in terms of material for your cover letter, and we will hit those points. So we will identify the key contributions, including very strong statements supporting the applicant. Why is he or she well positioned? Why is the endeavor of national importance, of substantial merit? We will look for those things that are difficult to prove otherwise, and this is where we will talk about them. Be careful considering what you should have there. You should really sit before doing all this and have a strategy for your case and have a well-defined strategy as to what each letter should say. Finally, the letter will be closed with strong support for this application. So there will be literally statements saying, I strongly support the application for green card. I think the US will benefit greatly from having this person in the country. The statement can also be very strong, supporting the applicant's work on the endeavor and how he is well positioned. And then sometimes some letters can be used also to literally say that the labor certification should be waived, and that's why an EB-2 NIW is necessary. And this, if you're already in the US working, then someone in your company can write that type of statement. Finally, make sure that the letter is signed with ink that looks more professional. You don't need the original of the letter. When you contact the recommender, you can tell them that they can keep the original. You need a scan after they are done signing. And remember to request that CV or resume from recommenders if they don't have it. I mean, sometimes very senior executives don't have a handy CV. Then you have to make some sort of bio sketch based on their background. Then how long should this recommendation letter be? Approximately, I think in my experience, about 1,000 words, and that's about 2 to 3 pages. If the letter is too short, then you cannot really fit all the content we discussed previously. If the letters are too long, then they will actually be boring and they will dilute the content. So the officer will actually feel a little bit confused, and then so many things are said that they all kind of lose importance. So in summary, the reference letters are a very important part of the EB-2 NIW petition. You should include 4 to 8 letters. The letter should be about 1,000 words long, and you will probably be the one drafting them and then share with the recommenders so they can edit, review them, sign them, and give them back to you. at least half of the letters should be from independent recommenders. The more the merrier, because this is the class of recommenders that USCIS gives more importance to. Finally, if you need more help, if you want to read more about this EB-2 NIW green card, be sure to visit my website, eb2niw.info. You can actually download my real successful I-140 application, and it includes 6 recommendation letters. 3 of them are subjective and 3 of them are objective. So you have a good mix there. You can see how I did it, how I presented my case, and you can know everything about it so you can prepare your own successful case. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.